Welcome back to the Keeping It Real Estate Show. Today on the show, we have Nicole Bacot from Quest Trust. And if you haven't heard of Quest, Quest is the premier self-directed IRA custodian, and they administer IRAs for the purpose of investing in alternative investments like real estate, notes, oil and gas, private placements, and more. So right off the bat, Nicole, welcome to the show. We're really excited to have you on, and we're excited to learn a little bit more about self-directed IRAs.
Thanks so much for having me on. It's really a pleasure to be here.
You bet. So I guess before we get started, why don't you tell us a little bit about your background and then also a little bit about Quest Trust as well?
Sure. So I've been in some role in the retirement industry for, I guess about 20 years now. I kind of grew up in my dad's office. He's a financial planner, was at the time. So I've always just been really interested in kind of what he did. He helped people retire. And I saw some stories where people couldn't retire, had to wait too long to retire. So I've always just been really passionate in this industry about educating people about how to retire, why it's important to, start saving young for retirement, kind of all the facets of the whole, world. So I've been on the public side as a broker. I'm now, of course, on the private side with private assets. So I'm in IRAs and 401ks, kind of all of it. I've kind of been around a little bit of all of it. So I was around for the 2008 crash for the stock market. So I've kind of been around for a little bit. But yeah, that's kind of how I've gotten started, and I just love this world, and I've loved really what Quest does. So it was really great to join Quest. I moved to Texas about 4 years ago from Louisiana, and I've been with Quest a little over 2 years now. So new to Quest, I guess a little new to Quest, but not new to the game really. And Quest, we are the largest self-directed custodian out of the great state of Texas. Our main office is out of Houston, but we absolutely have offices in Austin and Dallas, and we do serve the whole country. We have about $2 billion under administration, not management, because the accounts are self-directed. We have about 100 employees in our 3 offices. We largest self-directed custodian. I'm trying to remember on my slides. But yeah, we cover the whole country. So no matter where you're listening to us right now, we can help you. We even have some Canadian clients where they do their business in the US. So we are happy to help you no matter where you are right now.
Got it. Well, I appreciate that. And I can say firsthand, we work with a lot of IRA administrators such as yourself, and Quest Trust has been one of the best on our side as far as service, fees, the type of setup that you have over there. It's just been fantastic. So I'm excited to have you on today. I guess, why don't we just start off discussing, what a self-directed IRA is, how it's different from a traditional IRA, and just give us some details.
Sure. So self-directed is actually a completely made up marketing term, and a self-directed IRA, like if you look for it on the IRS website, it does not exist. It is a totally made up marketing thing. So self-directed just really means that you are in the driver's seat. You are directing this account yourself. You are telling us what to do. You are telling us what asset you want to invest in. Our role is the custodian and to facilitate the transaction that you would like to. So if you would like to buy a rental house, for example, in your IRA, it's our role to say how to facilitate that transaction. These are the documents that we'll need. These are how they're filled out. We'll review these for you. So that's kind of our role. So self-directed is really just, it's made up. It means that you're in control. You're picking out everything. You're telling us what to do. We don't have like anything for you to select from. We don't have a list of funds or real estate that's out there or anything like that. We have a lot of ways to support you in finding some assets, but we don't have like a list. So a lot of people really like that as they go out and they find what they want, what they really, what they're really educated in, whether it be real estate or oil and gas or notes or what have you. And they're like, hey, this is the deal I find, I want this. And we kind of help them that way. So it's different. It's really only different in kind of what you can invest in. So an IRA at a Fidelity or Vanguard or a Schwab has the same exact rules as an IRA here. The IRS same rules, same contribution limits. But here at Quest, we have an open architecture platform to where you can invest in private assets. And that's really what we specialize in. So we don't hold anything publicly traded. We're very, very specialized in holding the private assets. So that's what makes Quest different, among other things. But
Got
that's
it.
when an IRA at Quest differs than an IRA like a Fidelity or something.
Perfect. So really the IRA is similar or pretty much the exact same compared to a Fidelity or Charles Schwab. Really, it's just you don't have the limitations that they have on what you can invest in. So Charles Schwab, Fidelity, I'm pretty much 100% sure that you can't invest in real estate. You can't invest in cryptocurrency or oil and gas sometimes. Whereas with Quest Trust, you're able to invest in those asset classes, correct?
Pretty wide open. We have clients that invest in racehorses, cattle, crowdfunding. We've heard all kind of really creative investments here. So a lot of clients really like that they are completely in control. They get to find a deal. They get to really structure it a lot of times how they want. Of course, we have to make sure it's not prohibited, but they can get really creative, with their attorneys and accountants and kind of how they want to structure things, joint ventures over the private entity deal. We've seen all kinds of things. So people really like that.
Got it. I appreciate that. Why do you think the larger companies like Fidelity and Charles Schwab have those limitations where you can only invest in, stocks and bonds and items like that and not real estate? Do you think there's a specific reason?
One, I think that they really specialize in what they do, and that is, they have the trading desk and the brokers and everything for public assets. And it's kind of not as that it's not as hard. I mean, certainly reading the market is not an easy thing, or that anybody can predict what's going to happen. But, when you buy Apple stock, you know what the price of that is at the end of the day. So you're kind of, you have the market and you're letting people trade and what have you. And then that's kind of your price at the end of the day. Whereas Quest, these are private assets. So the administration is different, documentation is different, the valuation is different. Like it's your, a house that you have in your IRA that you're renting out, maybe you bought it, and of course I'm just making up numbers, $50,000. We don't know 6 months later if that's gone up or down, or there's a valuation process. So as much as we specialize in private assets, I think they specialize in public assets. So for them to kind of jump in the game now after they've been just doing what they've been doing for so long, I think would be probably kind of hard for them with all of the private, IRA custodians out there.
Got it. That makes sense. I appreciate that. So can you explain some of the tax advantages of self-directed IRAs? And then also, can you explain the difference in between a Roth and a regular IRA as well?
Absolutely. One of my favorite things to talk about. So the traditional IRA, just like at a Fidelity, a Schwab, a Vanguard, traditional IRA always grows tax deferred. So pre-tax money is going into the traditional IRA. This is typically where your 401k or your 403b or your 457, your old retirement plans typically roll into this plan. I've heard it called the rollover IRA. It's typically known as the traditional IRA, but I've heard it the regular IRA, the rollover IRA, the one that's not a Roth. Those can all be fine, but it's the traditional IRA. It's a pre-tax IRA. So that grows tax deferred. You're deferring or delaying paying tax. So when you get the returns in that account, it goes in tax-free at the time, if you will, because it doesn't go to you as regular income. So all of your investing and the interest whenever can grow in a compound way. And then 59 and a half is the magic age for retirement for the IRS. So at that time, you can start taking distributions. But that is the time also when the IRS wants their cut. And that's when you'll start paying taxes on that account, a traditional IRA. A Roth IRA, on the other hand, is for after-tax money or paycheck money, if you will. So typically when you get your paycheck, the taxes have already been taken out. You've paid your federal and state, depending on what state you live in, but you certainly paid typically your federal taxes. So after-tax money goes into the Roth. And the cool thing about the Roth IRA is after it's been open and funded starts that clock for 5 years and you reach 59 and a half. Everything comes out tax and penalty free. So we're not deferring anything. We're not delaying anything. We started with after-tax contributions. So everything grows tax-free. So no matter what your investment is, at a Fidelity or at Quest, they both grow tax-free. So it's important to have that 5 years and 59 and a half. Even if you start the account at 70, you still have to wait the 5 years. So it has to be both the 5 years and the 59 and a half. So the Roth IRA, of course, people are madly in love with because of a tax-free retirement. And who doesn't want a tax-free retirement? You can turn a traditional IRA into a Roth IRA. It's called a Roth conversion. Of course, it's a taxable event because we're going from a pre-tax account to an after-tax account. It's taxed at whatever your tax bracket is. We, of course, do those at Quest. Most custodians will do a conversion for you. Some charge fees, some don't. We don't charge a fee if it's a cash conversion because that's very easy. To convert an asset like a piece of real estate is a lot more complicated. Of course, that's a whole new class in itself. But yeah, you can absolutely go from a traditional to a Roth and a Roth conversion. So
Got it. That's really interesting. So if you have a traditional IRA and, let's say you've had that set up for 10 years and all of a sudden you're in a low tax bracket and you want to convert it to a Roth, you're able to take advantage of that low tax bracket that you're in that year and convert and, possibly avoid paying higher taxes in the future. Does that sound correct?
yes, absolutely. And so towards the end of the year, people kind of look to do conversions because it's based on the year, not necessarily on the day. So that 5-year clock. So if you do a conversion on December 31st, it counts as if you did it 1/1 of that year. So you kind of have year one already out of the way.
Got it. No, that's really interesting and valuable information. And I think, obviously the two of us are not CPAs. So if you have more information, if you're listening to this podcast, reach out to your CPA and have that conversation with them because you can really do some nice planning, whether you're setting up an IRA now, doing a Roth or traditional, or if you do that conversion. So that was great information. Say someone is really getting hammered right now, at the stock market. Obviously, we've seen, the stocks in general decline substantially, and they want to pull out, put it into a self-directed IRA with an administrator that allows them to invest in real estate. How long does that process take, and what does that look like?
Sure. So here at Quest, we only hold private assets. We don't hold anything publicly traded. So you would need to bring your account wherever it is to a cash position. And then we could transfer it over. Here at Quest, our normal processing time is 24 to 48 hours. That's how long it takes to open an account. That's how long it takes to process an investment. That's just our normal processing time. So we can have an account open for you in 24 to 48 hours. What really takes a long time, the longest time is waiting for your current custodian to send the funds to Quest. We don't have any kind of control over that. So it's typically about 5 to 10 business days. Some are a lot shorter than that. But that's kind of the range that we give because we've seen it take that long. We've seen it go a lot shorter. So it's truly dependent on your current custodian, however quickly they process it and send the funds over to us. Even with a wire, it can take that long. That's kind of the longest part, but to set it up 24 to 48 hours after the funds get here, or even while we're waiting for the funds to get here, we can start collecting the supporting documents for your investment because we just need to make sure they're in the name of the IRA because the IRA is going to take title to that investment. We can start that document review process while we're waiting for the funds to come. So when your funds do arrive, we're kind of ready to go. We review documents and then it can kind of happen at the same time because as soon as we have those documents in good order, we can send the funds out within 24 to 48 hours. So we do what we can to make everything go as fast as possible.
That's great. And like I said, we've worked with Quest Trust quite a few times, and each company is a little bit different when you're, getting the funds from Fidelity or Charles Schwab or what have you. But that's typically what we've seen as well, 5 to 10 business days and the funds are transferred over. So that's great. And, as far as combining, let's say someone has, 3 or 4 IRAs, or maybe they have an old 401k, can they combine multiple into one, or do they need to keep them separate?
So as long as the tax status is the same, you can absolutely combine the IRA, and only for yourself. Like a husband and a wife can't combine IRAs because they're two different people. IRAs are individual retirement arrangements. So they have to stay like, person for person. But if you have like, a couple traditional IRAs and a pre-tax 401k, you can roll all of that money into one, traditional IRA. Or if you have an old 401k that maybe had a Roth component and you have a Roth IRA, you can move that money into the Roth IRA. So you can get down to maybe like one traditional IRA, one Roth IRA. You can have multiple IRAs. Some people have multiple IRAs for organization. I've seen people have like a traditional IRA for real estate investments, a traditional IRA for note investments, a traditional IRA for private entity investments. The contribution limit now stays the same. It's an aggregate. So you can have 100 IRAs. It's still the same contribution limit. But you can have multiple IRAs, same contribution limit, but absolutely you can combine IRAs in same tax statuses to make it easier for you.
Got it. That's great. And the 401k, I'm glad you mentioned that as well. So if you have a 401k, you can basically transfer that over to a Roth or a traditional IRA.
It's
Correct.
typically an old one, a plan where you no longer work. If you
Okay.
are currently working and have a retirement plan that you're looking to move over, the question to ask your employer is if they do an in-service rollover, they'll have to look in the plan document to see if that's available. If it's not, it's just not. It's just whatever's in the plan document. If it is, it is. If it's not, it's just not. And
okay. So if there isn't the verbiage in there and they don't allow an in-service rollover, you basically have to keep it with the employer that you're with right now. If that's in the verbiage of the 401k, then you can roll over the funds, correct?
Exactly.
Got it. Very good information. Any tax consequences if you do roll something over like that?
No. So as long as you're going from qualified plan to qualified plan, so like a rollover from a 401k or any employer plan to an IRA, it's a reportable event. So you're going to get a 1099 from the company that distributed the funds, and you'll get a 5498 from us saying like, no, they put the funds back in a qualified account, not taxable. So it's a reportable, but not taxable. A transfer between IRA and IRA, not reportable, not taxable.
Okay.
So both are non-taxable events. One's reportable. But
got it. Perfect. And what are the contribution limits in 2022? And then if you have them for 2023, I'd love to hear that if they've changed.
Sure. So for a traditional and a Roth personal IRAs, this year for 2022 is $6,000. When you hit age 50, you get $1,000 catch up. So that would be $7,000. Next year, we are getting a $500 bump. So the contribution limit will be $6,500, and the catch up does remain the same at $1,000 for age 50 and above.
Okay, got it. Well, I appreciate
for the traditionals. I think, I'm pretty sure everything else stays the same, but those we did get an extra $500 for coming up next year. So that's
got it. Well, at least we'll it's some sort of increase. Exactly. So, and how about, with Quest Trust, obviously each company, has a fee structure. Can you share a little bit about the cost of setting up the account, servicing the account? Any information you can share there would be beneficial.
Absolutely. So typically it's $100 to open the account. We very often have promotions, waiving the fee or making it less. I have my own codes that I can use if anybody wants to open an IRA. Happy to do that. To buy an asset or process the transaction, however you'd like to think about it, it's $125. And that covers our transaction specialist reviewing those documents, making sure they're in the name of the IRA, letting you know of any corrections that need to be made to get those documents in order. That's what $125 covers. And we have several different fee schedules for depending on the way that you invest and depending on your account balance. We have it a few different ways you can select from. So some people that do a lot of like short-term promissory notes, it wouldn't make sense to charge them like per asset because that would just be astronomically expensive. Mm-hmm. So we'd have a plan based on assets, and we have a plan based on market value, kind of depending on how you invest and depending on your balance. Whichever works for you obviously works for us. You can change your fee schedule at any time. There's no fee or time of year or time limit or anything like that to do it. You can change it every other day if you want to. You can have the fees taken from a credit card. You can have the fees taken from your account. You can change that whenever you want. Again, there's no like time limit or time of year or any restrictions like that on when you change any of that. So it's truly kind of how you invest kind of depends on that annual fee, and we can do it quarterly, we can do it annually. So there's a couple ways we can do it. So it's kind of hard to answer that in one, because it's kind of dependent on how you do it. But of course, you are welcome to call me or call any of the other IRA specialists. We'd be happy to discuss the fee schedule with you and what would work for you specifically.
Okay, perfect. And I wanted to get a little bit more into solo 401ks. I think that's an avenue that a lot of people are unaware of.
Yep.
So if you want to tell me a little bit about a solo 401k, what are the restrictions and requirements, and who would that be a good option for?
Sure. So I'm actually on the solo 401k team here, so I'm happy to tell you about that. So solo 401ks have been really popular, and a lot of people call for them and they're like, my accountant said I should get one, so I just need one, but they don't really know what it is. They don't really know how to run one. They might not even have an IRA or invested privately before. So it's definitely an account that you need some education on, that you know that you're going to be involved in this account. So the solo 401k that we have, we sell you the plan documents, but we don't service this plan. So this is a plan that now we are happy to support you through education. We have lots of classes on this. We've done webinars on it. We have a whole playlist that's dedicated just to solo 401ks. We have a solo 401k team, but we don't process any of the transactions. We don't record keep for this. So that's something that they'll need to be aware of too. So it's also, of course, a qualifying account. So first you have to be self-employed.
Okay.
A self-employed, the only employee that you can have is yourself. The exception as a spouse, but the spouse has to be employed there to make contributions there. That's something that somehow gets missed often. The spouse has to be employed there to make contributions there. Also, no other employees. No common law employees. Like if you're telling, if they're a 1099 employee, but like you're telling them they have to be there from 8 to 5 and this is how you're supposed to do it, it's kind of a common law employee. Mm-hmm. Definitely get with your accountant and your attorney. Make sure they know what a solo 401k is, that they know what the rules are too, because if you have one and then you're like, oh, hey, this is for you, manage it. That doesn't always work out. So make sure they know what they're doing as well. So self-employed, no employees, no common law employees. The spouse is the exception. They have to be employed there to make contributions. You need to have an existing profiting business. So we do have people that call, they're like, I opened an LLC this morning, I'm ready. Well, one of the things is you have to legitimize the plan within the first year of opening it from the profits of the business. If you opened it this morning, we're not sure if it's going to be profitable. And that's a requirement from the IRS to legitimize the plan from the profits of the company. Not a lot of guidance of what is reasonable. So make sure you're working with your accountant and your attorney, but it is legitimizing the account within the first year from profits of the plan from the business that you open, not just, I'm going to put some money in there from my account. So it does need to be profits of that plan that you opened it for. So legitimizing the account, you are responsible for the record keeping or hiring somebody that knows how to record keep this plan. So you're responsible for making sure that the contributions, distributions, purchase and sale of all assets are accounted for. Our document allows for Roth deferrals, so you can have the after-tax deferrals. In-plan conversions, because the employer contribution must always be in pre-tax dollars, but the plan does allow for in-plan conversions. It also allows for voluntary after-tax contributions to fill that gap if needed for the employer contribution. So you'll also need to take into consideration, you might have different buckets of money. You might have pre-tax money, Roth money, voluntary after-tax money. So while you're tracking transactions, you have to track buckets of money. So we can make sure you can have a really good record keeper. Should you get audited, the IRS is really going to want to see, everything that you're doing is up to snuff and what have you. Also going to need to be aware of the prohibited transactions and disqualified people, because the same rules apply to a solo 401k that they do as an IRA. Everybody loves a solo 401k, and it does come with a lot of bells and whistles, but it does come with responsibility. And I think that that's the piece that people miss. And you're responsible for filing the form 5500, which is the tax form. You don't have to file it until the plan reaches $250,000. not a terrible idea to file it in the first year, just to let the IRS, especially if you're rolling funds into it from another IRA or another plan. Hey, this is where I put the qualified money, like, because the place where you distributed the funds from is going to send them a 1099, like they took the money out. Well,
Yep.
hey, I put it right here. I put it right here in the qualified spot. So definitely make sure you have an accountant and an attorney that knows all of this. Now, the benefits, of course, is it comes with checkbook control. So you get to have a checkbook with it. So you are, buying and selling the assets yourself. It does come with the UDFI or UBIT, the UBIT exemption. So UBIT is a tax that can happen in an IRA if you are running a business in the IRA, if you are getting income from personal property not attached to land. It's not really personal property, it's property that belongs to the IRA, but things like a mobile home, like farm equipment, medical equipment, a horse, a boat, things like that. And the last, which is the most common, is having debt leveraged assets inside of your IRA. Like, if you took a loan to buy a house, or if you invested in like multifamily syndications, those tend to bring on UBIT or a tax in your IRA. Now, the tax can be mitigated. We can reduce the tax with depreciation expenses. That's a whole nother class as well. But the solo 401k does come with this UBIT or UDFI exemption, not UBIT, UDFI exemption on unrelated debt financed income if the assets in there over 366 days. Another huge benefit that people want the solo 401k. And of course, it comes with those larger contributions. For this year, the employee, you can put in $20,500 with a $6,500 catch up, and the employer, of course, you're the same person, is the lesser of 25% of your adjusted gross income, or $61,000. So huge pluses, lots of, big money to put away, checkbook control. There's the UDFI exemption. There's lots of great things about the solo 401k, and it can be an amazingly wonderful investment tool, a great retirement plan for a business, but does come with responsibility.
Got it. So it sounds like if you're running a business, you're the sole employee, or you and your spouse, it could be a great tool to use, to help alleviate some possible taxes that you might, get hit with in a self-directed IRA. Plus, it allows you to invest a lot more, and it gives you that checkbook control. So I love that avenue. But it's, just another tool in the tool belt.
Absolutely. Just make sure you have your accountant and your attorney with you.
Definitely. And I would strongly advise, anyone that's going to jump into that, make sure to, reach out to Nicole. And it sounds like they have a ton of training videos and whatnot, and educate.
We have a lot of resources for you. We're happy to help. We don't service the plan, but we're happy to help you.
Definitely. So as we're about to wrap up this podcast, is there anything else that you want to talk about that we haven't mentioned yet, or that we've missed at all, Nicole?
Gosh, there's so much in self-directed IRAs. There's so much you can do. One thing that you did mention earlier was combining accounts. So you can't combine accounts like if you're husband and wife or what have you, but one thing you can do with IRAs that I don't know, I think it's an interesting strategy, is you can partner them together. You can do this with IRAs of your own, like if you have a traditional and a Roth, or if you're a husband and a wife, or if you're yourself and your own entity, or yourself and your own personal cash, you can partner your accounts together for single investments. So I see this more and more often. I think this is a really good strategy, or to partner with like your child's smaller accounts. If you open accounts for your child, like the Coverdell Education Savings Account, the contribution limit is $2,000 a year per child. It's kind of hard to build that balance. So I see a lot of parents partnering their larger accounts with their children's smaller accounts. So many different reasons people partner. The thing is, the partnering percentages has to stay the same for the life of the asset. So for example, let's say we're buying a $10,000 house. This is of course all for easy math. You're buying a $10,000 house. Let's just say I'm using my traditional and my Roth. My traditional is going to put 5,000. My Roth is going to put 5,000. Now Quest has sent out one wire to buy a $10,000 house.
Mhm.
So now 50% of the asset is each owned, in each one of my accounts. Now, any expenses for the asset have to come out the same way. So if the sink breaks in the rental house, $50 from my traditional, $50 from my Roth is going to go to pay the plumber to fix the sink. Let's say we get $500 a month in rent. $250 is going to my traditional, $250 is going to my Roth. Let's say we sell this house for $20,000, $10,000 going to my traditional, $10,000 is going to my Roth. So as long as those percentages stay the same for the life of the asset, this is a great way to kind of partner money together, include other people. We've done this at Quest as with employees. I think there was 13 employees that did this one note, but it was very creative. People with larger balances, got a larger balance. People with smaller balances was a smaller percentage, but it's a great way to it's like, well, I don't have enough money with myself to do that loan, but like if we all partner together, we can kind of do this. So we've seen it done with friends. We've seen it done with people in their own entities, husbands and wives. So that's an interesting strategy that I see it used more, but I don't know that a lot of people know about it, but it's something you can definitely do with your IRA. That's just gives you a little more purchasing power when you partner those accounts together.
Got it. Another great tool. I've never heard of that before, so I appreciate you mentioning that. So if our listeners want to get more information about setting up a self-directed IRA or chatting with you about a solo 401k, how can they get a hold of you? And then I know you had mentioned a code earlier in the podcast, so if you could share that as well, that'd be great.
Sure. So our phone number is 281, actually it's 855. Well, they're all the same number, but 855 FUN IRAs, FUN IRAS, because we really do think this is fun. We really do go in the hallway and argue about tax code and what about this and can you do this? We really think this is fun. Or our local number that reaches all three of our offices is 281-492-3434, but that phone number is not half as fun as the other one. And then email, you can do Nicole, NICOLE .Bacot, B as in boy, A as in apple, C as in cat, O as in Oscar, T as in tango at questtrust.com. I'm happy to help you. And the codes I have, you have to email me to get the code. I'm just going to give you the code. You got to do the work. You got to call me and talk to me about some IRAs, and I'm happy to give you the code to open.
Perfect. Sounds great. Well, thank you so much, Nicole, for coming on the show today. Ton of knowledge, some really great pieces of information that you shared. So thanks so much for coming on.
It's my pleasure. It's my pleasure. Thanks so much. Y'all have a wonderful afternoon.